Revolution Radio proudly presents, live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Anyway, so for those of you that don't remember or do not know about Aphrodette North, first of all, I'm very pleased to say that she is one of our luminary ladies of the Blue Ridge. For those who remember a little event that we did a few months ago, Aphrodette is a clairvoyant astrologer and has been ministering to the needs of others all over the world for 30 years using her natural psychic ability, as well as astrology and tarot. She is ordained through the Alliance of Divine Love and credentialed through the International Metaphysical Ministry. Here she offers classes, seminars, private spiritual counseling, in addition to psychic tarot readings and in-depth analysis using astrology. Last time she was on the show, she read my chart and has been right on. I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. So, with that being said, welcome back to the show, Aphrodette. I'm so happy to hear your voice. How are you?
I am doing great. It's such a pleasure to speak with you again. And, it's very interesting with this Mercury retrograde. You're a 4-degree, almost a 5-degree Cancer sun. Mm-hmm. And when you were lost and couldn't find where you were going, retrograde Mercury was exactly in opposition to your sun, transiting through the 9th house of metaphysics in your birth chart. That's why you got lost.
Oh. Darn retrograde.
It was a direct hit. It was a direct hit on you.
Wow, my goodness. Unbelievable.
But it's okay.
Yes, it ended up really good. I mean, today's a good day, and a happy new year, actually. And happy new year to you, too, Aphrodette, by the way.
Thank you. I am looking forward to this year. There's a lot cooking out there.
Yes, there is.
Mercury retrograde is tricky, and a lot of people have been suffering with this one. But we suffer with each and every one of them. But you've got to remember that when a planet is retrograde, it actually appears to be moving backwards. So it's a time to reconsider, because Mercury rules our communication. So it's a time to double-check everything, maybe do the research, but not a time to launch.
And it's very interesting that you bring that up, because I have all these projects being thrown on my doorstep, and I'm afraid to move forward with any of them. I'm like, maybe I'll just consider everything before making a decision. But how come, well, I guess this is just a personal question. I'm sure many other people would be very interested to know the answer. How come some Mercury retrogrades are more dastardly than others, for lack of a better term?
Well, it depends on how it's accessing your personal chart. In astrology, you have planets, which are kind of the verbs of the zodiac, and they're in a sign, which is kind of like the costume that they're wearing. But the house that planetary energy is in is the stage where the action takes place. Now, with you, it retrograded in your 9th house of metaphysics, and it's going to be retrograding back into your 10th house of your career, because you're self-employed, you're a public figure, so it's going to retrograde back in there. But the good thing about that is you can reconnect with other people you respect and admire in the field. The retrograde energy can bring back things full circle sometimes, and also allow us to reconsider, so that when Mercury moves forward, maybe we have more information or a better strategy to proceed. Okay?
Oh,
so the emphasis in your particular chart has to do with the 9th house of metaphysics and the 10th house of being a public figure, which is what you're all about. And that's why you are going to experience a little bit of frustration, because you're a go-getter. I know that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it gives everyone an opportunity, again, to take the time to do a little bit more research, see if something new has come up, whether it's for a medical diagnosis, new job opportunity, a way to increase your visibility with social media. These are all things people are going to be considering because it all has to do with communication.
Oh, very good. I see. And as far as, well, do you want to jump in and tell us what do you see going on in 2017, or do we want to figure out what happened in December of 2016?
Well, let me put it to you this way. The planets are always moving, okay? And there's a mixture of planetary energies. All of the planets move at a different rate, okay? And there's ponderous planets, which take a long time to make a transit from one sign to the next. And what they allow us to do is they allow us to do things over the long haul, and they really affect everyone here on a global and on a personal level. All right? Now, to start off, Pluto, the planet of power, life, death, and rebirthing, planet of transformation, it is in Capricorn. Now, it's been in Capricorn since November of 2008. But that's when we started to experience the Tea Party, because it hadn't been in Capricorn since the Revolutionary War. It takes that long. It's going to be there until 2024. And the Capricorn energies rule our governing bodies, okay? So there's going to be a revision of power issues, issues of authority, matters of state, okay? And also because Capricorn is a cardinal earth sign, it also rules the earth, where we have our little feet right now in this particular lifetime. And so because of that, we are experiencing global changes, weather changes, okay, changes to the ocean, changes to the plates. But these things are not going to happen all at once because this planet moves very, very slowly. So the whole idea is to reconstruct over a longer period of time.
So think ahead.
So think ahead. Now, the ponderous planets, okay, they take a long time to make a transit. And for instance, Pluto, again, it's basically going to be there till 2024. But every year it retrogrades also, like Mercury is doing right now. And when it retrogrades, that's when there's an opportunity to change policy, to make amendments to a constitution, to create a treaty, okay, to declare a war or to declare peace. Okay, so all these things are part of the matrix.
I see.
And this year it retrogrades between April 20th and September 28th. Now, most planets retrograde during the summertime, okay, which traditionally is a time when we're kind of on vacation. That's when most people take their vacations.
Right.
Or they're out of school, okay? And that's why the planets retrograde. So they slow the energy down so that we can go through that revitalization, that relaxation period in the summertime, okay? And so that's kind of what's happening here. Now, Pluto, the planet of power, like death and rebirthing, being in Capricorn, right now what it is doing is it has been forming squares in the heavens, and this has been going on for all of 2016 as well, okay? And Pluto, being in Capricorn, it's been forming squares to Uranus. Now, Uranus is the planet of surprises. It rules things like lightning bolts and hurricanes and falling in love and all things we have no control over. Now, it was retrograde within 48 hours of New Year's Eve, and then it went direct. Okay, so now it's coming out of its retrograde cycle, so sudden and surprising things can occur at this time. But because they're both ponderous planets, a slow-moving planet, over a longer period of time, you're going to see as they square throughout this year, and they form exact squares throughout this year, that there is going to be negotiations. There's a desire for establishment through Pluto and Capricorn, and freedom with Uranus in Aries, because it hasn't been there in 84 years.
Wow.
Okay? So again, these are different passages that we're all going through. Now, Uranus, it entered Aries on, 2011, and it's there until 2018, okay? And it wants to create a revolution of self, and it wants us to find new and innovative ways and means, okay, for that I am presence, okay, of the spiritual consciousness to settle in and be part of what's changing in real time with Pluto being in Capricorn. Now, last year, Jupiter, the planet of good fortune and abundance, was in Virgo for about half the year, and then it went into Libra, the sign of peace and harmony, in September. and Libra and Aries oppose each other. So what's happening now is there's a T-square that's involving Uranus and Pluto and Jupiter and Libra. So we're saying we want peace. We want to both establish security, but we still want to demonstrate our freedoms. And that's what it's all about this year. Okay?
Sounds good.
Jupiter doesn't leave Libra until the 10th of October when it goes into Scorpio for a full year. Okay? Jupiter is not really a ponderous planet, and it's not really a planet of event. It has an annual cycle. It's in a sign for a year, B12, and Jupiter is considered the great benefactor of the zodiac. Okay? It brings gifts to its children. Now, every planet has a positive and a negative manifestation, or I want to say maybe a passive and aggressive manifestation. Jupiter is a planet of good fortune and abundance, but it also rules things like overindulgence, like too much of a good thing. Okay? So every planet has those qualities, which is why we were given choice from the beginning. And there's decisions that we're going to make, but it's important for us to understand the pieces of the puzzle. And it's not as complicated as maybe I'm making it sound. For instance, like Neptune, the planet of dreams, illusion, imagination, faith. It hadn't been in Pisces for 165 years. Okay? So it's a new passage for all of us. Now, it went into Pisces in 2012. And it's going to be there till 2025. Okay?
Oh, wow.
So again, we're looking at a long time when we can actually get back in touch with imagination, clairvoyance, spirituality. Okay? We can also get more attached to the muses. Like the music, people are getting more and more aware of the ancient things of music, the different frequencies that can help to heal the population. And even help plants to grow and animals to be calm, okay?
Yeah.
All these things are going on. And Neptune in Pisces, there can also be, again, disillusionment, okay? There can be a hypersensitivity for people that are very psychic, okay, that have planets in that sector. So they can find it's harder for them maybe to be in a crowd, that they want to meditate more, that they need to get a little bit more sleep, okay, if it's very active in their chart. But it's there, again, for a long period of time. So out of this is a wonderful time, again, to appreciate the arts and the creative imagination, because we are all creators here.
Yeah.
We're all built in the image of the divine, so we're going to be using a lot of those creative forces. But the T-square that's going on is why there is going to be a lot of governmental changes, of which, of course, we're aware. We just had the election.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about President-elect Donald Trump's chart, because a lot of people have been asking me, and rather than try and tell each person one by one, I figured I had an opportunity, because you said, come on the show.
Very good.
To maybe do it so more people can understand what's going on. Now, what I did is I looked at Donald Trump's chart, his birth chart, but then I also decided to relocate him to Washington, D.C., because that's going to be his residence for the next 4 years. And there's only a minor difference in the charts, okay? But to me, a minor difference can make, changes easier or more difficult in a chart. When you change location, it takes you about 13 lunar months to reset your biogrid. You have to go through each full moon and new moon in order to reset your bioclock. It takes you that long to really adjust to a new location. Now, he's not moving that far away from where he was born. He was born in New York. So he's going to have some minor changes going on here. But one of the reasons I feel there's been a lot of, there's a lot of anticipation, and then there's a lot of prejudgment of the circumstances here. But when you're looking at an election, okay, there's certain things you look at the man that wants to be elected, his chart. They can make a big difference as to whether or not he would win or lose.
Okay.
All right? And his Jupiter was in Libra when he was born, and Jupiter returned to him this year. Okay? Now, Jupiter is in Libra. It's only in there every 12 years. His Jupiter was sitting right on his natal Jupiter at the time of the election, with trines and blessing lines to all of his Gemini planets. Okay? And so because of that, my feeling is that Gemini energies tend to be very extreme. It's black and white, yes and no in some ways, okay? And again, he did make, I want to say, quite the dramatic entrance and dialogue that was going on here. But he was pretty protected because of Jupiter, okay? Now, his vertex, or his electric ascendant in the chart, is actually a computed point. It's a sign of a calling for a person. Okay? Now, his vertex or his electric ascendant is at 0 degrees of Capricorn. And retrograde Mercury today is sitting on his vertex, which is why people are talking about a recount. You know, we want to go back. We want to change it. Okay? And so that's why we're seeing all that on Facebook and stuff and in the media. And that's okay. But again, you know, when you take a look at this person's chart, you can see that there's a lot of being set up for success. Uranus, in being in Aries, is in trine to his Mars in Leo. And he has Leo rising and Leo Mars, which is why he can be very, very dramatic. He can be very charismatic. Okay, and so again, that's part of what he was demonstrating to the public. Okay, and so again, you were seeing that Pluto, the planet of empowerment, was moving into his 6th house of work and service to the public at the time of the election, squaring his Jupiter in Libra, which tells me that he's going to have a lot to learn. Okay, I mean, he's very knowledgeable about business and economics, but now he's going to be dealing with maybe countries that he has not dealt with in his own professional rise to power.
Diplomacy.
So now he's going to, and he's going to have to work within the organization. And so Pluto in Capricorn is going to demand that of him, but because it's a slow-moving planet, that's why his cabinet, okay, having the safeguards that we have in our political system, all these things are going to be very important moving forward. Okay, so there's much that he can teach us that he has learned. Okay, so his rise to power as a person, and as a very good businessman, but at the same time, there's many things about the nuances that of international politics that he's going to need some very powerful advisors, and in order for him to really be able to make a difference in a very positive way. Now, I'm a little concerned about his health. Okay, only because, again, moving forward, you know, he's probably been a busy man every day before the election. So I'm wondering how that's going to all pan out for him. So it's going to be very important for him to take very good care of his immune system, especially moving through the month of March. Okay, so I when I was looking at his chart, I said, I'm just going to send out a good message to the universe to make sure that he does protect himself and stuff, especially if he's going to be traveling to other lands.
Yeah.
You know, there's all kinds of, you know, different kinds of diseases that are only in certain parts of the world. So he's going to need to make sure that he does take very good care of himself in this process. And so like I said, Saturn, the great teacher, is only in Sagittarius every 28 to 30 years, okay? And it was actually sitting on his moon and his south node, which is the empty cup of the zodiac at the time of the election. And so because of that, again, for him to become a ruler, because Saturn does rule government. In Sagittarius, it rules international government. And sitting right on his moon, what you're seeing is, again, that he is going to be trying to move through this and probably learn about this as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Okay? So he's going to be teaching and learning other people that are statesmen, other people that are also elected officials in other countries. They're going to be able to learn from each other in a pretty amazing way, because Saturn also opposes his sun and his north node, or the cup overflowing of the Bible. So my feeling is he's going to need some very strong interpreters. He's going to need, again, someone who can help him to understand the cultural realities of the economics of other lands that he may not have participated in, even though he has done a lot throughout the world on the personal.
Right.
So I just find it very interesting. I think it's going to be a fantastic learning experience for him, and maybe for all of us.
I'd say so, yeah.
To see, right, how that can open him up to, again, a whole new, I want to say, self-refocalization, self-identity to become the president of this country. So I'm just, again, I'm an eternal optimist. I can't help myself. I have a Sag moon.
Well, thank you.
I know it's kind of crazy.
Being an optimist.
Now, there's a couple of other things that are going on this year that I wanted to share with people. And again, that has to do with, there's going to be 4 eclipses this year of 2017, and then there's 5 eclipses in 2018. Now, the eclipses that we need to consider this year, the first one comes in on February 11th. And it occurs on the Leo polarity point. The sun is going to be in Aquarius opposing the Leo moon. And what happens in that situation, that there can be a tremendous amount of drama. okay? But there can also be a resurgence in higher mind and artistic creativity joining forces, okay? Which is kind of neat when you think about it.
Is it a solar or a lunar eclipse?
That's a lunar eclipse.
Ah, okay.
That's a lunar eclipse. Mm-hmm. There's a solar eclipse that occurs on February 26th, okay, where the lights line up together at 8 degrees of Pisces. And they're going to be sitting right on Neptune. I mean, it's amazing, the creative imagination, the surreal energy. So those that are looking for spiritual enlightenment, okay, and have started to really develop their spiritual gifts, that's really going to give them a boost. Because in a solar eclipse, what happens is that the ego loses its power and the soul claims its reality. Okay, so that's going to be another very interesting eclipse. We have a lunar eclipse that comes in August 7th. So again, we're dealing with, again, that Leo Aquarius polarity point. Okay, and we are trying to join heart and mind this year. It's very powerful in that regard. And then a total solar eclipse occurs on August 22nd. It's a very last degree of Leo. Okay, the planets are lined up on that Leo-Virgo cusp. So what we want to do is we want to take our creative ability, okay, our mastership, if you will, of whatever gifts we were given, and we want to ground them in that Virgo Earth energy, because it's a critical degree. So what can I do? If I'm artistic, I should be painting. If I love music, I should be playing it. Okay? If I want to go ahead and learn how to be, for instance, a spiritual healer, I need to step forward and manifest it on the earth plane. So it's going to be very interesting as far as the 4 different eclipses that are showing up this year. And again, we are seeing, again, a balance between trying to maintain the structure, maintain our freedom, but also embrace peace as much as possible. Yeah. Because the Libra energy is very good at arbitration, negotiation, okay? But it's not always decisive. So the squares that were going on with Jupiter and Pluto are very important because they help to try to make the decision on what is going to serve for the longest period of time the most people. Mm-hmm. Okay? And this opportunity only happens every 12 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, what was the dates that we should be aware of when this is happening?
Well, it's happening on and off throughout the year, actually.
Oh, okay.
Because the planets move so slowly, that's what's happening, is we're going to have squares off and on throughout the year. And we need to be prepared for them in some aspect, okay? Now, what's happening with Jupiter is going to be forming a sextile with Saturn, which is a potential. Okay, because Jupiter is in Libra and Saturn's in Sagittarius. When they form a sextile, it's because air and fire like each other. There's a potential to move forward, to have more of a world view, okay, and to want peace throughout the planet, not necessarily just in our own backyard, okay? Right. And so that's going to happen. And Saturn is going to be in Sagittarius all year, but it moves into Capricorn on December of this year, December 21st, right before Christmas. Okay, right at the solstice. And so then it's going to be in Capricorn for 2.5 years. And when it moves through Capricorn, it's going to be conjoining Pluto. And that's when the whole thing of what they're trying to put together this year and all the philosophies that are shared, okay, and how we come to terms with different political figures and stuff to form new alliances, okay? Yes. There's a lot of talk, again, about the world meetings that they have, the United Nations, and some of the things that are going to be changing there. And this is the year for it to change as a result of philosophy and vision, because that's what Saturn in Sagittarius is all about. And when it goes into Capricorn, that's when they'll have the basic foundation that they'll be building on over a 2.5-year period. Because you've got to remember, Pluto's going to be in Capricorn until 2024. So during Saturn's tour, we are going to see that the structures that are going to be forming at that time will be very strong, and they will last for a very long time.
Very cool. So
and now Saturn, of course, retrogrades every summer. So during this retrograde cycle, things may be tweaked. Like they might have a basic idea of how they want to work with policy, work with laws, work with negotiations on the world level. But during its retrograde cycle, a lot of times people will come back to that peace table, or they'll come back and make maybe a new decision. They'll bring in another expert. These are the things that happen during the retrograde cycle during the summertime. So that's going to be going on also. Now, Saturn has been interesting because it's basically trining Uranus, okay? And here Saturn is, it's in Sagittarius, and it's kind of, I want to say, a kiss and a slap, because Saturn wants structure and Sagittarius wants freedom, okay? So we've all been developing a new philosophy over the last couple of years. And when it's trining Uranus, which is the liberator, it is the freedom fighter. It's the rebel of the zodiac. So they're trining each other. So we're going to have a lot of people from the rebel era that are to that age where they are serving in the Congress, in the Senate.
Wow.
Okay, all of those things.
Aphrodette,
And
we're being nudged into a commercial break. I'm sorry to disrupt you, but we'll be...
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
And welcome back to the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio, the #1 listener-supported alternative radio station. We can always use your support. So if you take a moment, please go to freedomslips.com and make a donation. And if you do make a donation, please send them a note and say that you are a fan of the Just Bernard Show. Anyway, we are talking with Aphrodette North, and we were talking about the rebel Uranus. So I want to hear more about Uranus. And are we going to have more protests this year, you think?
I think that people are going to be, again, all up in arms in more ways than one. But again, Uranus, because it's a ponderous planet, it has to have a trigger. See, all these ponderous planets, they're setting the stage, okay, over a longer period of time, and they pretty much are in the backdrop of what's going on here. Now, because Uranus being in Aries and now it's direct, again, there is a desire for each one of us as an individual to make a difference. This is not a time when any one of us wants to feel powerless. I can guarantee you that. Okay? But because Jupiter is in Libra and going to be opposing it and has been opposing Uranus, again, there's a desire for peace and harmony too. So we want to respect and appreciate the diversity here, the differences that we have. And then with Jupiter being in Libra, to negotiate what can be best for all concerned. Where do we draw the line? Where do we create the harmony in the midst of stressful changes that are needed here? Okay? Now, Jupiter first made a square to Pluto in Capricorn on November 24th, right after the election. Okay? It's going to square it again on March 30th, and then also on August 4th, because Jupiter is going to be going retrograde. Okay? And when it goes retrograde on February 5th, it's retrograde until June 9th. So during that period of time, again, things are going to be reconsidered. That was when things can be arbitrated, that more information can be gathered, because Jupiter is the largest planet. So it does magnify everything it touches.
Yeah.
So more people are willing to look at what's going on within the legal system, both nationally and internationally, okay? How can laws and protection be there against crime, okay? How can confidentiality be kept without everybody losing their privacy? We still want to make sure that we know that we're safe. So all of this is going on simultaneously this year. Now, the tricky thing with Jupiter being retrograde in Libra is often it's difficult to get something signed into law because of the objections. Okay? And but so it is going to be a challenging year, but I still think, because we're dealing with a cardinal T-square. Cardinal signs in astrology mean that energy is trying to aspire to the highest ideal, okay, and to actually make it better here on some level, okay, in order for the entire creation, I want to say.
Right.
And so that's what we're seeing. Now, the planets that are triggers are the planets of event, okay? The Sun and Mercury and Venus and Mars, they're trigger planets. They tend to move through, and they can join with other planets and stuff to create a unified force. Mars is a planet of decision, okay? Now, it's very unusual that Mars is not going to retrograde this year at all. Okay? So it's going to be forward moving the whole year of 2017.
Wow.
Okay? And that doesn't always happen. So because of that, there's always something to be done. So if things on the larger scale are delayed, we still need to keep ourselves busy doing those things that we can do.
Yeah.
Is pretty much how it reads out. And Mars being the planet of action and decision and war, but it's also, again, the planet of passion. And I think last year everybody was thinking, I can't do this anymore. I need to find my passion.
Mm-hmm.
I can't just go through the motions of my life. I need more. I want to do more. I want to be more. I want to take some actions here. And so this is the year you can do it.
You hear that, everybody?
That's pretty good.
This is the year to do it. Aphrodette, we have someone on the chat room that is asking a question about. Well, let me just share it with you. Noreen is asking, now that we are in Neptune and Pisces, I'm feeling its effects in my 8th house in my chart. How does that play out?
Well, it depends if she has planets in other mutable signs. Like, for instance, I'm going to go back to your chart here for just a minute because I have you right here on screen.
Okay.
And take a look at where it's hitting you. Okay. For instance, your moon, Bernard, is in Pisces. And Neptune was retrograde until November 21st when I had my grand opening for my new office. And I actually scheduled on that day for that reason. And what it was doing is it was passing over it was retrograding over your moon last year. So it was really, really good for your psychic ability and stuff, but sometimes it makes sleep more difficult. Sometimes we wrestle with certain things on the subconscious, which is in your 12th house. But if Neptune's traveling through her 8th house, this has a lot to do with probably developing her own psychic abilities. It also may put her in touch with the healing things of music, water, things that flow like painting. But if she has mutable planets, like planets that are in Gemini, planets that are in Sagittarius, planets that are in Virgo, it can form some stress aspects, okay? Now, when you have a square in astrology, it doesn't mean you can't, it means you must meet the challenge of the square, because this is what helps us all to grow and become, okay? Now, if she has planets in water in her chart, it's going to be forming trines and blessing lines for her planets in water. And depending on, again, the degree of those planets. And when that happens, those are the things that are going to flow in her life. That's going to help her to birth her gifts. That's going to allow her to trust her intuition more than ever if she's got planets in water in her chart. Because every person is going to experience these things a little differently depending on, again, what planet these planets angle off within their chart and what house that planet is in. And that was a very intelligent question for her to ask.
Actually, and it goes on to say, Mercury in my chart has been hit by the Uranus-Pluto square.
Ah, okay. So because of that, now was it a T-square?
Noreen, is it a T-square? Are you there? She'll hear that in just a second. But what's it? Well, actually, educate us. What is a T-square versus another square?
Well, when you're in a T-square, you can create a static balance. Okay,
we know that balance. Not a T-square.
Okay. So basically, what she was looking at is she was looking. They were angling off with her in a different way. Can I get her birth information so I can just look at it so I can see the whole picture for her? I'm happy to do it.
Oh, okay. Here you go, Noreen. Go ahead and send me your birth date and time. Is that about what we need?
And where? Yep.
Oh, and where? She's typing.
Okay. I'm happy to take a look at it for her. I could probably give her some insights about that. Because when you do have a lineup in your chart like that, it's hard not to take it personally. Okay.
Right. 3/26, 64, 1:40 p.m. L.A.
Does she still live in L.A.?
Are you still in L.A., Noreen? I know there's like a 3-second delay on the radio, so it might take a minute.
That's okay.
Still in L.A.? Yes.
Okay, so let's take a look. I'm going to look at her today around her, see what's going on here. Okay. Yeah, Uranus is actually sitting right on your Mercury, Noreen. And again, you can have some amazing revelations because Uranus is transiting through your ninth house of metaphysics and the divine. So the I am presence in you is probably pretty powerful right now. Now, the way that Neptune is opposing your Pluto, but it's way too early to oppose your moon, but it opposes both Uranus and Pluto in your chart right now. So this is about not seeing everything as an emergency. This is about embracing your peace, okay? And this is about claiming back your inner power, that part of us that can be still. And Pluto is going to be squaring your Mercury throughout this entire year in the sixth house of work and service. So you're going to want to do whatever you can to stay in character, because the I am presence of you is an Aries, and to serve the public in whatever job, healing work, whatever you do as far as in your lifestyle. It is a time that you need to meet the challenge of the square. And again, having that Mercury and your Sun both in Aries, you're probably a very open and honest person, okay? And so my feeling is people will know that you're giving them the straight shot. So you'll be taken seriously this year. Now, Jupiter is opposing your natal Jupiter and your natal Mercury right now. So this is a time to embrace peace within your community where you live, because Jupiter's transiting through your third house of your community where you live. But it's also angling off with Jupiter, your ninth house, of doing things much more international, like being on the radio here with Bernard, okay? Because you want to spread the word, you want to be part of something greater than yourself. So you're going to be able to meet this T-square pretty well. Because, again, it's all in cardinal signs. So you're going to surprise yourself when you rise to the occasion.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Wonderful.
I love it when that happens.
She said, yes, she is spot on, and she does have a show here on Revolution Radio.
Oh, great. I'm happy to hear that. I'm very happy to hear that.
Very good.
Yeah. It's interesting the way the planets move and stuff, and how it allows us, again, when the planets retrograde, we might be in the middle of a process, and then we say, I think it could be better. So sometimes the retrograde planets offer us an opportunity to use our perfecting intelligence to find an even better way, okay? And then when it goes forward again, we're like, oh, I'm so glad. I stopped myself. Maybe I didn't finish the book, but maybe there was more to the book that needed to be written. So these things are going to be happening. But mostly it happens during the summertime most, because that's when so many of the planets are retrograde.
That's great. That's great.
Yes. And so we don't have too many planets that aren't going to be experiencing some of the retrogrades this year. Most of them are going to be retrograding. Of course, we have Mercury retrograde until the 8th of January, but it's still its shadow till the new moon, okay? And so because of that, you can move forward after the 8th of January and make some decisions, but make sure that all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, maybe have another set of I's, go over your paperwork, but each day it's going to get a little bit easier, and some of the communication snafus we've been going through will start to disappear, okay? And what happens next is Jupiter goes retrograde, and it goes retrograde on the 7th, 8th, and February. So when it retrogrades in Libra, we are all going to be looking to establish some environment in our realm where we can find a sense of peace, okay? And when it retrogrades, you might be thinking, again, back in time. When was I happiest? Now, because Jupiter has an annual cycle, if you focus during its retrograde period on the last year you were really happy, you were really at peace, things were balanced, things were good, take a look at that year and use this as a marker to bring back that knowledge or that awareness that you had that year, bring it forth into this year as part of the matrix of what you're trying to decide as you move forward, whether it's your job, your family, your children, relocation. But that's a good time for you to do it. Then what we're going to have is we're going to have Venus going retrograde on the 5th of March. And then Venus is going to be retrograding in Aries, and it's going to go back into Pisces. Right now, Venus is in Pisces, and it's exalted there. So love is highly idealistic, but can also be very disillusioning at the same time, depending on where it hits your chart and the angles it forms. Okay? So people, if they're having difficulty with love, whether it's with a family member, romantically, even their pets perhaps, whatever that might be, they might want to seek some help outside themselves if they feel that things are not exactly right.
Right.
If it's angling off beautifully in their chart in Pisces, they could fall head over heels in love again. Okay? They could start to really appreciate their own artistic talent. They could be sharing a lot of kindness with other people, just doing random acts of kindness throughout their day. It could really complement a person's chart as well. But when it goes retrograde in Aries, it's going to back up into Pisces for a little while again. When it's in Aries, it's going to be all about self. When it goes retrogrades back into Pisces, we're going to reconsider and make sure that we haven't done anybody any real harm, even if we had to take a stand for self.
Right.
So that's what Venus is doing over the next couple of months. It's doing that from March until the middle of April. And then when it goes back into Pisces for those few degrees, we can retake our bearings, maybe say our apologies or explain ourselves better.
Right.
And with Jupiter retrograde in Libra, we can claim back the piece of a relationship that we didn't really want to lose, but maybe there was a difficult time.
Mm-hmm.
And we all go through these passages in our life. Saturn's going to retrograde also in April. 7th of April, it's going to retrograde for a while in Sagittarius. And so again, we're going to be taking a new look at what's going on internationally at that time.
And when does this current Mercury retrograde end?
But it's going to still be in its shadow until the new moon on the 20th. So you need to take your time until after that. I'm telling most people, any major decisions, major purchases, better off to wait till after February 1st, really, just to be on the safe side.
Oh, okay.
And if you can't, have someone else look over what you're doing, okay? Get another set of eyes to look over the document, look at your business plan, if you will, review what you're doing about your health, all of these things. But after February 1st, it's safer to make that kind of decision.
It's so funny you mention it like that because I don't know how many other cancers are like this, but when I start feeling this way, I get into my shell and I just don't do anything until I know for sure the direction I need to go in.
Right. Well, I understand that, but now what Mercury is getting ready to do is it's getting ready to back up into Sagittarius over the next 24 hours. Okay?
Oh.
It retrograde in Capricorn, so it's backing up into Sag. Okay? And it's going to back up in Sag for a little while. Then it's going to go direct, okay, on the 8th. And then it's going to come back and it's going to oppose your sun again, Bernard. And so you're going to feel that same thing of how you felt lost before. You're going to feel it again. Okay? No. And let me tell you what day that's happening. That's happening on the 18th.
January?
So on the 17th, 18th, and 19th of January, okay, after it goes direct, it's going to be opposing your sun again. Okay, but at least it's going to be direct this time. So even if you get a little lost along the way, you'll make it to the appointment or the conference. It'll probably be all right.
Jeez.
And Jupiter is sitting right on your Mars today, Bernard. And so it's very, very good for you in one way, and that is that if Jupiter's sitting on your Mars in Libra, again, you're such a strong advocate for peace, okay? And we talked about this before when I did the show with you last time. You are the peaceful warrior, and that essence of you is being magnified, and that's how people are going to see you right now. Jupiter is squaring your Mercury, which is retrograde in your birth chart in Cancer. So it's a good idea to listen to what other people also have to say. Invite them on your show, which is what you're doing, inviting me on and stuff like that. It's about, again, wanting more people to come forward to share your vision.
Mm-hmm.
And Uranus is opposing your Mars right now. Uranus is in Aries direct now, okay, since New Year's Eve, and it's opposing your Mars. So this is a time that you can have sudden revelations with people, okay? And you could have like an epiphany. Somebody's talking and you're like, whoa, I can't believe you said that. So it's going to be kind of an aha period for you for the next 3 months.
Oh, good. I like that.
I'd enjoy that.
I love ahas, definitely.
Now, Mars already passed over your moon, and I saw on Facebook that you weren't sure what you were going to end up doing New Year's Eve, and it ended up being wonderful.
Yes.
Okay.
Very nice surprise.
Nice. And Venus just entered Pisces yesterday, so over the next week it's going to pass over your moon again. So out of the people you spent time with, new friendships are probably spawning at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the relationships you had can be deepening at this time, where there's time to be more confidential with each other, time to look into the other person this week and next week. So I would be enjoying that if I were you.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, yes. And it's funny you mentioned that. I kind of feel that brewing, something's brewing type thing with friendships and whatnot.
And you're going to really have to take good care of your health.
That seems to be going without saying lately, but thank you for reminding me.
Well, it's because Chiron, the wounded healer, Chiron is actually opposing Uranus and Pluto in your sixth house of work, service, and health. Okay? And when you have Pisces, Virgo polarity points, your health is very strongly contingent on what you're putting into your body. Okay? Like, how much sugar do you eat? Are you eating healthy? Are you eating frequently enough to keep your energy flowing the way you want it to be? Okay? And so for that reason, again, this is a time that you should also be getting a little bit more rest, because all of these Pisces planets are moving through your 12th house of sleep. And the difficult thing for your chart where you live now here in Roanoke is that Pisces is what they call intercepted in your chart. There's no doorway to it. Okay? So because of that, you don't know what happened. You're like, what happened? Why do I don't feel good today? What's going on here? And so that's why it is good for you to follow up, whether you deal with a natural practitioner or a regular doctor. It is good for you to work more with preventative medicine at this time.
Oh, okay.
Is what I'm going to encourage you to do. Yeah. And it's just going to help you a lot to keep the picture. When you put good things into the body, and that would make them taste good too, because you're a Cancer. The palate matters, doesn't it?
Very much. Very, very much.
Yes.
People make fun of me because I can't be a vegetarian. I'm like, I love food. I love good food. It has to taste good.
That's right. That's right. Well, Chiron the Wounded Healer is kind of a misunderstood energy because it's not a planet and it's not an asteroid, really. It's actually a planetoid, okay? And it's going to be retrograding this year in Pisces from July 1st to December 5th. So when it does that, a lot of times people do go back to health regimens that worked for them, okay? They say, I used to really love doing this. Why don't I start back, okay? And people look back again at a healthier, maybe happier time for them, because Chiron has to do with all matters of health, emotional, physical, spiritual, mental. And so because of that, we need to, when Chiron does go retrograde, it's a time for us to try and put aside the pain of our growth and embrace the bliss of our growth, okay? And it allows us that opportunity.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And so, Aphrodette, we have probably like 2 more minutes left on the show. Is there any one thing that really screams out in the chart of our planet this coming year that people really need to be aware of, or just a go with the flow?
It's pretty much a go with the flow kind of energy. On a personal level, dealing with this T-square, again, it's important to try and integrate this energy, okay? So again, negotiate with yourself. How disciplined do I want to be and how much freedom do I need? Okay? And we're going to all be dealing with that on a personal level. And the T-square, we're going to bounce back and forth. There's days we're going to feel like we handled it perfectly. Other days, like, shouldn't have overindulged in that. Shouldn't have taken that trip. I spent so much money, whatever it might be. But it is going to challenge us again to try and find that balance as far as doing our personal best to take care of ourselves and others.
Right. Self-discipline and compassion sounds like a winning thing for me.
Yes, and with Uranus now direct in Aries, to be spontaneous. Don't be afraid to be a little spontaneous sometimes. You feel called to just call a friend you haven't talked to in a year or so, just do it.
Nice.
You feel like you just want to take a road trip and go, look at a waterfall somewhere, whatever it happens to be. Sometimes this little bit of freedom when we're feeling confined or troubled or worried can help us, it's an escape that can cause a sudden advancement.
Yeah.
as far as
Yeah.
the way that we're approaching our world.
All right. Well, everybody, I want you to know that if you would like to, you can speak with Aphrodette. You can make an appointment with her. You can go to aphrodette.com, and I'll have the info up on the archives and whatnot. And I believe there's some links already on my Facebook page. Again, everybody, thank you so much. We will see you.